Hey everyone, this is Zach, also known as Trading Aloha on Twitter, and today I just wanted to give you a walkthrough of one of the newest projects coming to the Avalanche ecosystem. METAIN is a NFT project that's focused on bringing real estate investment trusts, also known as REITs, onto the blockchain to be one of the first that is going to be traded on the blockchain. And I think it's an interesting idea and another way to kind of diversify your portfolio to give you a different option and opportunities to grow both your crypto portfolio as well as potentially add this into your stock portfolio as a REIT that'll return you dividends quarterly and help you grow that passive income stream that eventually can give you what you want to, retire or supplement your income on the side so you don't have to work as much. So to kind of kick this thing off, we could bounce over to the METAIN Twitter page that continues to grow day over day and week over week. The team has been very active on pushing out some of their promotions, and we'll kind of walk through the white paper as well. But even just investing a little bit, they're currently offering a solid chance to win some prizes for anything anywhere between a couple bucks, some cash back, some AVAX, or even an iPhone 14 for some of the grand prizes. They've given away 3 already, and they do it live, so the drawings are quite fair. And I look forward to see kind of how they continue on. They also have been doing quite a bit of AMAs with various members of the team as well as ambassadors on the Avalanche ecosystem. So if you can, jump in the Discord, you can tune into those or on their Telegram or even on Twitter. And the team is very accessible and easy to reach and has been quite fun to work with. I've really enjoyed my time over the last few weeks getting to know them and digging into the project. So hopefully I can give you a good overview of kind of what you can expect as METAIN drives towards their NFT launch, and eventually, as we can see them continue to grow over the next year. So when you bounce over to their homepage at metain.io, you can see, it gives you a quick snapshot of exactly what you're looking at. It's a real estate investment that's going to be brought onto the blockchain. They're targeting anywhere between a 15 and 25% APY, which of course that can vary depending on the market. So we'll just continue to keep track of that. But I think that's a reasonable goal as we walk through kind of what their initial investment is and the locations that they're looking at. I think it's possible that we could see this within this range, especially if we start seeing inflation come down. And some of these REITs that have been hammered with the rest of the market over the last 6 or 7 months or so start recovering in their value. So I think it's actually an interesting time for them to launch. They're not launching at the top like many projects have in the past. They're launching, I would say, towards the bottom or close to the bottom of this bear market, as we should start seeing things can maybe bottom out and go sideways for a little while before we start heading back up once we see the global economy start to recover. But what's interesting is they mention their token price initially is $10, so you can get a share of it, which as little as $10 would get you one of their NFTs. They are aiming to emulate exactly what a real estate investment trust would do, and with that comes a whole bunch of laws, regulations, how much money they have to return to investors. They are looking to get work with the SEC to make sure that they are above board and everything. So I think that's very interesting. Kind of as we work through the rest of this, I'll show you where you can find that information out too, so you can look at doing your own research on those. So look at what is METAIN. It's a co-investment platform that's going to bring NFTs and stablecoin holders an interest of 15 to 25% APY. Hopefully, they continue to build and what is a co-investment. So basically, it allows us to invest in this platform with any budget as low as $10. The rights are on the smart contract, so it's easy to see exactly what you're getting into, and it helps offer you 24/7 access to a real estate investment trust. You don't have to worry about market hours. You don't have to worry about something happening after hours, and then you have to sit there and wait and get front run by all the brokerages that are dumping. If you're paying attention and you want to sell and it's Saturday morning, you can do so. If you want to buy and it's Sunday in the middle of the day, you can buy and sell. So I think that's one of the greatest things here is the 24/7 access to exactly what you want to do at any given time. So I love that. So they're focused in Southeast Asia. So what does that mean? In the average return of those REITs, we're looking at about 10.6%, which is about 4% higher than we've seen normal REITs do, between 6 and almost 8% since 2019. And that's pretty solid. REITs have typically been outperforming the market a lot of years up until recently when we see these inflations go up. So if we do see the market recover And if Southeast Asia real estate does, in fact beat the normal stock market REITs that are focused in other areas of the world, we could easily see this, in the 15 to 20% APY range over the next couple of years. So I think the team took a great area and focused their efforts on. And how are they going to protect your investments? They're going to follow all the real estate investment trust regulations that have been created over the years. They're using bank custodians to actually protect the holdings of the real estate. So the rug risk factor is low. The holdings are held by a certified bank. They are audited by agencies to make sure that both their finances and taxes are accurate, especially when we look at distributions and dividend payments quarterly. That's important to make sure that that's gone through, to make sure that not only are they staying within regulations, but they're also distributing the exact amount that's required by the real estate investment trust. And then they're also using evaluation agencies to provide actual asset evaluations of their properties annually to make sure that if the value is going up or down, the investors can see that and adjust accordingly. And they're also going to create a DAO to increase the decision's investing power over time. So they may start with one property. As the project is successful and grows, it'll be the NFT holders' decisions to vote on exactly where they want to invest some of those profits and proceeds to continue to grow METAIN as a whole, which will then just return more money back to the investors. So I think that's an interesting aspect. You don't have to rely on a board making those decisions that may or may not be in their own interests, but also is now in the investor's hands. So I think that's good. The drawdown is of course you get those whales that may not understand real estate as well, and they could push decisions that doesn't make the best sense to those that maybe actually understand the economics and real estate a little bit better. But I think there's ways to mitigate that, and I think the team understands that already. So I'm interested to see how that plays out once it gets to that point. But I don't think we're there yet to where we have to worry about DAO decisions. But I love the fact that that's available to do so. And then you jump over to check out their team, and I recommend everyone who's going to invest in it do your own research, of course. But I do love the fact that they're all docs. They all provide their LinkedIn, their Twitter, where they come from, their histories. I think that's all. I mean, they're all solid investors and developers here that have been in the space for a while, and all of them have been doing these AMAs and talks on all platforms. So I love the fact that not only are they doxing themselves through pictures and history, but they're getting on and talking to investors on a daily and weekly basis, which I think is a huge plus, especially when you're bringing something new onto the chain, like these real estate investment trusts, which aren't going to go. The hardest thing in crypto is buying something and not seeing it go 10x instantly. So this is something that eventually is going to continue to grow, and I think it's important that people understand how long some of these things take. But over time, passively and reinvesting dividends, these things are usually one of the biggest winners. I know personally in my own investing strategy, the real estate investment trusts I've invested in over the past decade or so, even with the COVID boom and the crypto boom, have been some of my best investments because I just keep reinvesting those dividends and growing my shareholdings in those. And REITs are one of those things that require time, but real estate and land and housing is one of those essential things that everyone needs to survive. And over time, space doesn't get bigger. It only gets smaller as more houses are built and less properties available. So investing in the right areas at the right time can pay dividends down the road. So I love that the team's putting something like this together just to kind of add to my crypto holdings that help kind of decrease that volatility that we see in crypto from time to time. Yeah, I advise everyone to check out the team, take a look at their advisors, and again, all of them are doxed and have links to where you can find out more. So if you're interested in that, just take a look. You can see the partners and people that they've worked with already. Some of them are notable names. You've got Surtech, BlockPass, Verachains, Morgan Lewis, Deloitte. All these people have been involved or are still involved in helping make sure that not only is the smart contract audited, the bank holdings are correct, or their marketing and engagement plans are really solid. So I love the strong groups here that are involved and continue to stay involved. And then you'll be able to see them getting launched on the App Store and in Google Play shortly after their launch as well. On the bottom, you can just jump into, finding out more with their blog, their DAO. We'll hit the light paper here in a second. Their frequently asked questions, their compliance, and then all their social media channels that are all very active, which I love. And then, find out more that way. So when we jump over to their light paper, also known as their pitch deck, they recently revised it less than a week ago. So this video is coming at a great time where we can get some of the latest and greatest information on stuff that they've changed and updates that they've made. It's about 13 slides long, so I'll just run through this a little quick, and then we'll probably dive deeper into these in subsequent videos, and we'll talk about how REITs grow normally and what else you should look for when investing in these. But I think the team does a great job. So you look at slide 2. What are the difference between REITs on the not in the crypto world and the ones that are? You've got inequalities. You've got capital intensive to buy real estate. But in Southeast Asia, the average land price is 2,028 USD per square, and the monthly average is only 284. So it's going to take a long time for people to be able to build land. So being able to invest in Southeast Asian real estate at these prices is actually really good. So we're just going to have to watch and see what happens. So I think the biggest thing on everyone's mind when you talk about real estate is inflation, right? And they cover that. So they look at, they're expected to reach 7.9% in 2022 and then pull back about 5% in 2023, which is higher than the 3.8% average. And I think that's normal. And I think we've seen that across the globe. And I think, this kind of lines up with my own thinking, is that we reach peak inflation sometime towards the end of this year, if not the first quarter of next year. And then, go sideways, slow down a little bit towards 5% in 2023. And then from there, it's kind of anyone's guess. So there is a risk involved, sure. But I think, looking at the last couple of months, I think we're going to start to see inflation peak here within the next 3 to 4 months, and then slowly start pulling back. And then I think we'll establish a new norm, which is fine because having this being just launched, I think is coming in at a time where if inflation goes down, the value of these places is just going to go up. So an interesting way to look at it. And then you look at the crypto world's issues. You've got problems with rug pulls and people not doxxed, and assets not being backed by actual value, which we saw with some of the stuff that disappeared over the last couple months. But in this instance, we've got an actual real estate property that is held by the bank that is backing these investments. So that's another plus. So how does METAIN solve that? They lower the actual costs. It's not as large. If you're looking at land in Southeast Asia, you can get involved in METAIN for just $10 for just one share, which I think is great. The stable growth, 15 to 25%, I think is definitely something that can be reached, especially if the market conditions play out. And then only high liquidity income producing assets. They're only going to look at things that are in the right place to invest in. They're not going to buy some house way out in the outskirts of the city, or a dying area that they're going to invest in a factory. They're going to look for places that are in crowded cities, that are emerging markets, that have the ability to grow and are projected to increase in value over time. So they're experts in the area. I trust them to find those places, and I think they've got a solid plan. And then this kind of just goes over how they're going to utilize blockchain technology to ensure that their smart contract is available and auditable, to make sure that everyone feels safe. And how they do that is they'll receive the dividends. Their voting rights will be held on smart contracts. They're all held in centralized databases, as we know, and that kind of transfers into exactly what they're going to try to solve. So all the blockchain transactions are recorded. The DAO votes on everything. The shareholders claim their yield dividends instead of being deposited straight into their account, and then they can just purchase the NFTs for the REIT holdings at any time. So how do they create revenue? And I think this is similar to exactly what we think as we see, kind of how they build their asset management. Revenue streams 1% of the total. Their incentive fee, 20% of profits when selling real estate, which I think is fine. Property management fee, that's standard because they got to pay someone to manage all those properties. And then, 2% charge for asset broker fee for the REIT NFT insurance. and then 0.16 charge for secondary REIT NFT trading. I don't think that's too high. I think 2% is about right, especially if they're dealing with, being regulated and making sure that they're meeting all the legal requirements to stay, above board and everything. I'm willing for them to take a little bit more at the 2% range here to make sure that those things are done correct, instead of having, that extra, maybe cutting it down to 1%. So they can cut corners somewhere, and the team's not going to do that. So I think that's fantastic. And they pay out with USDT, which I think is important. So you're not having to deal with, getting paid out in a different token that's not backed by anything. So I think that's a great thing. I didn't really want to see yet another 2 token system. This is fantastic. You own the REIT by holding an NFT, and you're paid out in USDT. I think that's the best solution here, and I love that the team went that way. Instead of creating a token that then can be traded. So that A+ to them for that. So here we can talk about exactly what they're looking at. So the first market that they're targeting is Vietnam. So as we can see, they kind of lay out exactly what they expect for earnings. Their combined annual growth rate of 18.9% per year, even with COVID. So I think, as we continue to see regions come out of the COVID crisis and inflation starts pulling back, they believe that this growth rate can be sustained from 22 to 27. And I think they're spot on, because, if markets were growing during COVID, there's no reason why they shouldn't continue to grow at the same rate, if not higher, as we kind of come out of this crisis. And once inflation and supply chain issues are kind of solved, then we can see the growth continue even higher. So the next slide here is just kind of a snapshot of what the METAIN platform looks like, and we can walk through that too as well. But basically, you'll be able to choose exactly what you want to invest in, and then you can get the reports and the tax papers and the land certificates and everything you want that's held by Deloitte, the bank custodians, or CBRE. You can view that. It jumps into a PDF that works very well. It can show you exactly what you're expected. Buying and selling the NFTs are extremely easy. And then there's a calculator on the site that also lets you predict your basic returns over the next 5 years or so, depending on exactly how much you invest. So we'll walk through that too. So as of September 2022, they had 38,000 community members, which, between Twitter, Discord, and Telegram, which I think is pretty solid. They've sold almost 35,000 of the REIT NFTs before their launch. They filed for approvals from the SEC, which I think is awesome. The Canadian government grant for their startup, which is also great. They've got investments in Vietnam. They award the top 20 finalists for Vietnam startups. And they're also in discussions with Avalanche for additional investment, which I think is great. So I'm monitoring that really closely. I really would love to see what Avalanche does here, and how far their conversations go, because that's a huge seal of approval in my book, because I'm a big fan of anything they get involved in. So this is what they're looking for what they're ready to do. So they're looking, at Vietnam first. They want high liquidity, easy to transfer areas. They want all the legal documentation that's very available. They want houses that are either already occupied fully, have easy access parking spots for travel or business, and they're looking to hold them for 5, 6, or 7 years. And I think that they can accomplish that based on what they've depicted in some of their investments already that they've got lined up. They all meet this criteria, and I think it's a very interesting way to get exposure outside of common REIT areas like the US, Canada, Europe. There really isn't a lot of publicly traded REITs that you can invest in that are in Southeast Asia. So a great way to diversify here, and I think that's fantastic. We kind of mentioned this already on their partnership page, and we've talked about the team, but this just goes on in more detail. And at the bottom, you can link below to kind of all their social media sites as well. So now if we jump into the METAIN platform itself, as we kind of saw in the pitch deck, you can look at exactly everything you're expected to see as we saw previously. So it shows you their target raise, 1.9 million, almost $2 million. The valuation as of August 2022. Their expected net rental yield, which is almost 3.3%, and they expect the property value to appreciate almost 19% as well. You can see the location, the exact street address, so you can go look it up yourself. There are photos that you can check out as well. It shows you who's doing the audit, which is Deloitte. The CBRE is doing the valuation, their advisors, Morgan Lewis, and then they're being audited by Certec and Verichains. And you can read about the property description, exactly where it is, how close it is to other areas and other businesses and services that you get people living there to be frequenting. Exactly what type of residence it is, how many units are in there, 23. Its average occupancy is over 90%, which is fantastic. The actual NFT price, how many NFTs there are, which equals their total value raised, and exactly where they are on the roadmap. So right now they're entering their INO phase, and then they will be acquiring and renovating in December, and then they expect to start operations on 1 January 2023. And then you can even go further. They drop a map so you can kind of walk through that as well, and you can kind of see what's around it, how close it is to other places. So it really just gives you a one-stop shop to really examine exactly what you're investing in, which I think is something that most platforms don't do. Granted, they're not backed by anything. So this is one thing that I love to see, that an actual asset-backed NFT, and you can actually look at and see in real life and look at the documents behind it. So as you can see kind of on the bottom here, you can look up anything from their land certificate, their valuation paper, their layout plans, the finance and tax, the audit report, and the performance report. And by clicking on all those, if you click on the audit report, for example, it brings you to Verichain's page. It shows you exactly the smart contract that they audited, the platform it's on, when it was certified, and you can even dig into the audit report as well. So a great thing to see that all these links work. They're not just for show. You look at the performance report tab, you can see exactly how well it did on each floor, the buildings, the rooms, how many are rented, the types of rent, their average occupancy, the Airbnb rooms that are 50% of those, 90% are long-term, 90% commercial, and then it gives you even more information and pictures as well. You can even dig into the layout, which I just love the amount of detail that the team goes through here to provide you as much documentation and information as you possibly could want to make an educated decision. There is no ambiguity here. Everything is available for you to look at. Even the valuation report, granted, you'll have to have it translated, but it's a valuation report actually from CBRE, so should be trusted here to an extent. And it's not just created by the team, it is actually a report created by a reputable agency, and it goes into everything that you would expect to see from an evaluation of a market and the market potential. So I need to go through and still have this translated and see if I can get a copy in English, just so I can read it and understand it and compare it to kind of the reports that I'm used to seeing when I look at real estate investment trusts. But all the things that I see in here are exactly what I'd expect to see. And I love that they put that together. And then of course they have the layout as well, that's certified as many times as possible. So I love it. I think this is fantastic that the team put these options in there for anyone to see that wants to. You don't even have to invest before you see these. You just come into the app, connect, and then you're able to see and those before you make any decisions. And then the final step, if you decide that you want to invest in some of their NFTs before they launch, there's a couple ways you can do so. You just connect your wallet, you jump over here to the deposit tab, and you can select whether you want to deposit USDT, USDC, even Binance, BUSD into the platform. You can check, which chain you want to do so on, and then it'll tell you, as you kind of change these around, depending on the asset you want to drop in there, it'll change their deposit address, and you just send the stable coins to that address, and then it will drop in here. It'll tell you exactly how much stable coin you have, which I think is a huge thing here. If you don't want to deal with bridging, say you've got $50 on one chain, $100 on another, 25 on another. If you deposit all three of those on three different chains, most platforms you'd have to at least consolidate them at some point, paying some fees to be able to use all that together. But what I've experienced, because I've moved a couple things from Binance over as well, because I had some dust sitting over there that I just wanted to use to buy some of the NFTs. It actually combines all of your stable coins across all chains into your overall balance, and you'll see over here where it says you pay stablecoin. Once your deposit's all clear, it'll show up here, and you can use them all to buy the METAIN NFT without having to bridge or pay any swap fees. So I think that's great if you've got things you want to consolidate and use to purchase is one easy way to do so. And then once you do that, every NFT you buy allows you to spin on the Wheel of Fortune, which are currently giving away a bunch of different prizes from cash back to AVAX to free NFTs, and also enters you to a chance to win the iPhone 14, which I think is a fantastic value for as little as $10. That's a huge extra little bonus on top of the already fantastic passive income potential. And we'll kind of walk through that on the next video, but I wanted to make sure this one was just kind of an overview of the project, the team, and the platform. I've from start to finish, this was pretty easy to understand as I kind of walked through it. I didn't run into any bugs or anything, which I think is great. And every question I had as far as how the platform works and the future potential was answered by the team immediately, and in detail, which I think is important. It wasn't, short answers that didn't provide exactly what I was looking for. They went above and beyond and explained exactly what I was hoping for when I had questions about the project or the audit or who they talked to, who else they're working with. So I hope this helped at least give you an understanding of exactly what METAIN is and what they're trying to accomplish by bringing some of these REITs to the blockchain. If this video has helped, please drop me a like, subscribe, and if you could, share it as well. Help my channel grow, help METAIN grow, and help the platform become one of the best REIT NFTs that brings over to the blockchain and helps Avalanche grow as well. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me on Twitter @TradingAloha or drop a comment below and I will get back to you. Thanks.